Hi there, another episode of Shorthanded in the Kitchen with Randy. In this time where everybody's social distancing and staying home as much as they can, I thought I'd come up with something I call imagination soup. Just kind of some things that were in the fridge and a few things in the cupboard to go with some ground pork because I'm tired of making stir fry. So here we go. We'll start with the ground pork in the frying pan. We'll get our soup pot ready for our veggies. So we can simmer the vegetables as I cut them. And away we go. I like to call it, some people call it fridge soup. I call it imagination soup. There's other terms for it. Some people call it hamburger soup. But in this case we're using ground pork. Ground pork. Let's get that frying up there. Smash it around a bit so it fries up. Sometimes it's pretty tough. One-handed, the frying pan wants to slide around on you. You just got to be careful. I try to go quickly, so I show some simple ways for amputees with one arm, some with one hand, and like I said before, people with hands that may not be operating at 100%. So we'll start with that. And I like to sometimes get the onion mixing with the ground pork. I have to use my mouth again on the bag. A little tricky. And we'll just start like before, like I was showing people before. It's the vegetables and things seem to stay in place for me fairly well. If you get yourself a nice solid base, square base, so you're not rolling around on the counter when you're trying to cut them, that makes all the difference in the world. Just break those up. They'll break up as they're frying. Mix it around, get a little more flavor. I find that if you saute the vegetables before you just add them to your soups, they soften up a lot quicker. You're not waiting so long for your soup to boil, for the vegetables to soften. Some people like their vegetables a little stiffer. I don't like mushy vegetables. I'd rather there's a little bit of a crunch to them. But that's probably all the onion I'm going to use today. We'll just get that mixing around. There we go. And over here we just got some butter frying. Probably a little too much. And that'll help us get the celery going. I'm not going to use the brown ends. Throw that in, get them softening up. Like I said, some people call it fridge soup. They're empty in the fridge. Things that will go bad if you don't use them. We're going to use up some of these little baby carrots, maybe not all of them because it takes a while to cut them. And like I said, I don't want to bore people with these little videos on how-tos with one hand, short-handed in the kitchen. Being an amputee can pose some pretty big difficulties in life, daily living. Sometimes it's hard to tie up my shoes, so I use stretchy laces. Zippers can be troublesome. There's a few things I used to not worry about what I couldn't do and always just focused on what I can do, but as you can imagine, there's some things that are quite difficult. Here's one thing that I can't really do, and that's start a round of applause. Anyways, a little humor for you today. Like I said, while we're all doing this social distancing, it can become a little depressing. Everybody staying home trying to figure out what's actually happening in this world we're living in today. Personally, I've been at home for quite a while already. Been out of work for close to 20 years due to a car accident that injured my arm. So on top of being an amputee with only one arm, the arm that I do have at times doesn't work 100%. Well, there you go. So we had the meat already frying, sauteing with some onions. So that's looking pretty good. Turn that down. We're not going to use those carrots. We're done with that. And then we'll go back to my trusty little opener here. Ideal for people who possibly had a stroke and their hands aren't working properly, or again, like I said, one-armed people such as myself. In this case here, I actually want to reuse the juice. So I'm going to put the juice in my container here. So I'm going to add the juice to my soup. I don't know, some people might not like that idea, but I don't think it's going to hurt. Kind of, like I said, imagination soup. People used to call it leftover soup. I just found some things in the cupboard that I normally wouldn't use that I thought, well, let's use them up in the soup. Try to get these to soften up a little bit before we add our broth. We're just going to use a simple beef broth with this. Not a lot going on. I know that it's not a good time to make jokes in regards to our current situation in the world we live in. But as a one-armed guy, I use half as much hand sanitizer. And a box of gloves lasts me twice as long. I know, maybe not the best time to make jokes about stuff like that, but we're just trying to brighten up the day while we make imaginary soup. I'm going to use some crushed tomatoes. In we go. Use the beans. In we go. Beauty. And then, like I said, I recycle, so we'll be recycling these. Mix this around. So as you can see, we got a pretty good base going here for our imagination soup. A little bit of color, a little bit of veggies. And at the same time, using up some ground pork that I had, because I'm tired of making stir fries. Previous videos all look the same here, but again, the idea is to show you how you can be shorthanded in the kitchen and still make a pretty wholesome meal with the things you've got in your fridge or in your cupboard. I'm going to use beef bouillon cubes, and they require 2 cups of water per cube. So I plan on using 4 cups of water. Four cups of water. With my 2 bouillon cubes that I'll unwrap and add here to our mix. It says you're supposed to add them once the water's boiled, but I know that when it boils they will dissolve. Again, here's some things, you know, unwrapping stuff with one hand. Some people might have difficulties. I'm just trying to show perseverance, a little bit of patience. Stick with it. You can get her done. Break that up. And it will dissolve as the soup starts to boil. That one's being tricky. I just busted up into little pieces here. And that will eventually dissolve as the water boils, which is taking a while for this to come back to a boil. Let's turn that up a bit. And again, another little handy kitchen trick for amputees or people who struggle with 2 arms and don't want to get a bunch of dishes, find things difficult or annoying. I have a little trick for the draining process. Doesn't really need a whole lot of draining. As you can see, there's not a lot of fat from this particular pork. It's lean ground pork, so it's not so bad. I'm not going to worry too much about draining it, but normally I just soak that up with a paper towel, pitcher in the garbage. So here we go, pretty simple all the way around. I'm going to recycle my cans. Got one bouillon cube left, put it away. Recycle the teeny little box. When it comes time, eat these carrots probably after. And once this all comes to a boil, got my handy little noodle container. Probably a couple handfuls of elbow macaroni. That finishes this off. Today we're showing fridge soup, imagination soup, or what people would refer to as hamburger soup, except this is ground pork. I don't know about everybody else, but during this social distancing, we only do shopping. Lasts us a couple weeks. That's a good way to store your noodles. If they come in a bag when you buy them, this is empty, so obviously it'll be time for some more noodles. So we're going to add this, quite simply, to that. Give it a stir. As you can see, I don't use a lot of salt and pepper in any of the videos, but we are going to add, for this particular one here, we're going to add a little garlic salt, not a whole lot. And just for fun, and something different, I'm going to add a little bit of Montreal steak spice. Just because. Not a whole lot, but just something. There we go. Put the lid on. Bring this to a boil. I'll add a couple handfuls of noodles, and we're going to end up with imagination soup. Hopefully, I showed once again for amputees or people that are struggling with two arms that it's relatively simple to prepare yourself a pretty decent wholesome meal with just some odds and ends out of the fridge and the cupboard. Peace, stay safe, see you next time.